Welcome, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started here, and I'll just continue it to admit folks as they pop in. As a reminder, this is our first Lunch and Learn of 2025. We're really excited. Feel free to keep your cameras off if you're eating. Do whatever makes you feel comfortable. We are so excited to have Cami and Carter here from the CWC Alliance. A little bit about Cami. Um, so Cami Wolf Rice is here from the CWC Alliance. She is a mother, advocate, author, and an agent for change who has turned personal tragedy into purpose. Cami's going to share her powerful story and the impactful work of the CWC Alliance in addressing the opioid crisis. And she'll also share a bit about an exciting new opioid youth prevention initiative that CWC and Resilient Georgia are partnering on. So without further ado, Cami, take it away.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Nikki. Thank you so much, and Audrey, for having us. And all of Resilient Georgia. It's great to see everybody. For those of you who have your camera on, it's great to see you. It's good to have a face-to-face, so appreciate it. And I know some of you have heard the story. Maybe many have not. So if you have heard me speak before, there's a lot of update. So I appreciate you coming and being here today with us. Carter is the Director of Operations for CWC. Thank you, Carter, for everything you do and for running my slides today. I appreciate that. Okay, so you can go right in. So I always start with my why. And this is my beautiful son with that gorgeous smile. And Christopher, he had a health crisis. And this was 20 some years ago that the health crisis, he had ulcerative colitis, he had to have a major surgery. And it was right at the same time that Oxycontin was released into the marketplace as the wonder drug. And we went home with 90 Oxycontins, followed by 90 more. And it continued to go. And really, the first prescription literally hijacked his brain. And since Christopher's death, there's been over 600,000 deaths. But I always want to show, and especially this month, because next week will be his angelversary. I cannot believe that it's been 9 years that I have not had my son, but it really has taken tragedy. I miss him every single second of every day, but I feel like he didn't die in vain and he didn't sacrifice, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing and saving lives in his legacy and his honor. But literally, he was super disciplined. He wanted to be a Navy SEAL. And when addiction set in, I mean, he fought it so hard for 14 plus years. We did multiple treatment centers. So I always say my PhD is an MOM. I've lived this. And unfortunately, my job is to be out there saving lives. So no other parent, no other loved one has to lose a loved one. So that's the RY. And CWC Alliance stands for Christopher Wolf Crusade. So this is our mission statement, and we'll get into specifically what we're doing in our mission. But I always say, addiction is like an octopus. There's so many different lanes, and everybody's work is so important. And our swim lane is prevention. We want to stop it before it starts, specifically when you're in a health crisis in a hospital. So many of you know how bad the opioid epidemic and the fentanyl crisis is in our country. It's estimated that more than 6 million Americans misuse prescription medication. And I want to be clear, there is a time and place for opioids, but it is not a sustainable solution, not even for chronic pain. And it was initially invented for end-of-life palliative care cancer patients. And so, yes, there is a time and place for opioids, but you need to know how fast you need to taper off. It's not a long, sustainable. So I want to keep emphasizing that, because nearly 80% of heroin users started with an opioid prescription. I'm not going to read over every single, as you see the data here, and we all know it's the #1 death in ages 18 to 45. A lot of that gears to fentanyl poisoning that we're dealing with. but less than 3% goes to prevention. So that's our focus. So for 2 years after Christopher's death, I really was a zombie, and there was so much stigma around it that I didn't want my son to have a disrespectful death. And so I didn't talk about the word overdose. I didn't talk about, but then in 2018, I just felt like something has to be preventive in hospitals. I felt like there was a missing piece to the healthcare team. And I was very familiar because I was on a board called Alliance for Kids, and it was with child life specialists. And there's over 6,000 child life specialists. Many of you might be familiar with that role in hospitals. But when you're 18 and over, there's nothing, there's no coach at bedside. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pick the hardest thing to do. And that's to create a new position in healthcare. It's called a life care specialist. And there are three main goals at patient bedside is to be that coach. Again, if you look at our society, I mean, every sports team has a coach. There's birthing coaches, lactation coaches, sleeping coaches, executive coaches. But when you are in a health crisis, you have no coach. And so their job is to be your care coach at the patient bedside. Their job is to educate you about opioids. If you have to be on them, the importance of how quickly you need to taper off, and to provide other pain management techniques to help distract the brain when you are in pain. And then we all know when you're in the hospital, you're dealing with anxiety, stress, depression, PTSD, most likely all four of those things. And so all of our life care specialists are trained with the Trauma Resource Institute. Many of you know about the community resilience model. So we're all trained on CREM, and we teach mental wellness skills at bedside. Now, what happens is when we spend that time with the patient and we build up that trust, we end up finding out many other comorbidities like food insecurity, housing insecurity, domestic violence. And so that patient would have normally fallen through the gap at the hospital, but we're able to identify and get in touch with a case manager, a social manager, and get them the other resources that they might, I can't speak, that they may need. Okay. We call this the life care specialist healing wheel. We're always doing evaluation of an innovative ideas and things to help with pain. So we're always adding to the toolbox. But we do, like I said earlier, the opioid education. We do a lot of music therapy, and actually coloring books are one of the favorite things of patients. We have a patient care package that we have all different types of distractions for when you are in pain. So this is our healing wheel. And, many times a patient needs a listening ear. They need somebody to validate their pain, to understand what they're going through, not necessarily to go in there and talk, but to actually listen. And that's been very valuable. I will say it's been a learning experience. We started at Grady Hospital. We've since expanded, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But we're really changing a culture. There's only two countries in the world that advertise big pharma on television. And we, as a society, look for the answer always in a pill. So even nurses have been trained by the fifth vital sign that if you say you're in pain, I'm going to give you a pill. So we really try to use alternatives, and we help them and teach them to be their own healthcare advocates. Like when the doctor's going to come in, have your questions prepared of what you want to ask the doctor, how to also support the families that are there to support the patient that's having the health crisis. So we're really changing a culture of how to deal with pain, and also to set an expectation of pain. Sometimes when we have the situation where we can meet with a patient prior to surgery and set an expectation of pain. Many times pain is telling your body where to heal. If you have so many drugs in you, then you can't tell the doctor where it hurts, and you can't explain what's going on in your body. So pain isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? None of us want to be in pain, but unfortunately it is a part of life, and especially when you're having a health crisis. So the North Star, we want a life care specialist in every hospital across the United States. But first, Georgia. We're headquartered in Georgia. And although we have gone outside of Georgia, we received opioid settlement money in Arkansas. We are in 2 rural hospitals in Arkansas. We are at Emory, we're in Grady, and we've rolled out into 4 rural hospitals in Georgia. It would be Mountain Lake, Stevens, Coffee, and we're just now receiving applications for Valdosta, the South Regional Medical Center in Valdosta. The other thing that is pretty exciting is Harvard decided to do a case study on the life care specialist. They interviewed key stakeholders for a year. I was invited to come up there on February 4th and actually be there and participate with the students at the Harvard Business School. And they were able to ask questions and answers. And it was fascinating. And there had been so much growth in the 1 year that they'd done the study that they have decided to follow us on our entire journey as the life care specialist rolls out into multiple hospitals and states and eventually the entire country. I'm a mom on a mission. So I'm pretty excited about that. And it was a very big deal. The other thing, the Georgia House of Representatives put together an opioid task force. There's a really long name for it. I don't have it right in front of me, but to evaluate and to make recommendations to the state because the deaths are continuing to rise in our state. I was fortunate to speak and to explain that this is not a end-all be-all solution, but this is a specific preventable position in hospitals. And they came back with a recommendation to the House that we should set up life care specialists to be in every hospital in the state of Georgia. I won't even tell you what I sounded like when I read that in my email box, screaming. I mean, it is just like, it's literally a dream come true. We've just had so many wonderful things happen over this last year. And so super excited about that. Okay. So one thing, I don't think I had a slide on it. Let's see. Did we pass the curriculum slide, Carter? I don't see that. Sorry. I just wanted to, and I don't need the slide. I can talk about.
That's not in this deck, but I can find it if you'd like to show it.
Um, if you can, I'll go ahead and talk while you do that. I mean, I
Sure.
know on the slide, but I just wanted to talk about what you need to do to become a life care specialist. So we partnered with Mercer School of Medicine and the faculty at Mercer. We have 13 modules. We work together and I just can't emphasize enough. We would not be where we are today if it weren't for partnerships. You have to partner. We can't work in silos, right? And so even like with Resilient Georgia, right? I love our partners. So we have a curriculum. It's an online curriculum. So the life care specialist goes through an interview process, obviously. Then they do the online curriculum. There's 13 modules. There's a quiz after each module that they need to pass. And then Grady Hospital is our practicum where we do job shadowing on the floor at the hospital. Grady, again, a super partner. So we're able to take the life care specialists. We bring them in. They came in from Arkansas. They came from Coffee. They come into Atlanta and they do the practicum on the floor. Then we have an oral exam and they pass the practicum piece and then they are certified. They receive a certification from CWC and Mercer School of Medicine. Again, as I said earlier, we're partnered with Trauma Resource Institute. That's the part of the mental wellness coping skills that we provide. And we plan to continually keep this curriculum updated because as you all know, this world is changing so fast. Vertex just announced a non-opioid pain pill that they have been working on for 17 years. It just received FDA approval. They are going state to state to get the Medicaid to approve this pill. I was at their headquarters the day before speaking at Harvard because they're in Boston. They're a reputable big pharma company. They care. We're super excited to be partnering with them as well. So I just wanted to show what you go through. And the other thing to point out, and I had to do a little debating on this with people on my advisory board and so forth in the medical community, because we don't require a 4-year degree to be a life care specialist. Now, while we do have life care specialists, some that are going off to medical school, they have their 4-year degree. It's a mixture. We also have peer specialists, people in recovery that are life care specialists. Again, they have to go through our training. But in rural communities, I didn't want to require a degree because I want to hire in the rural community. That's the only way the program's going to scale. And honestly, we hire based on what you're born with. We can teach you the rest. You do have to pass the tests, but what I'm looking for, what we are looking for as a team is compassion and empathy and non-judgmental, a listening ear. You have to have that, and then we can teach the rest. So I just wanted to go through how we hire the life care specialists. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Thank you, Carter, for pulling that up. So we partnered with Resilient Georgia. We're opening a new division at CWC focused on youth. It's a statewide teen opioid and fentanyl prevention education and training initiative. So we will put together a whole training, and we got to make it cool, right? It's got to be really youth friendly, cool with a ribbon on the box, right? And we are going to be rolling out in 128 counties. We're going to be working with Resilient Georgia partners. We have just had couple kickoff meetings internally, our partnership to talk about who's doing what and when and how we're going to roll this out. But we're super, super excited about it. As you can see, I won't read off all the bullets, but basically it's to educate youth. And what I think is brilliant about this program is we put in for the funding to be able to pay the teens that are being trained. So it's train the trainer model. It's got to be peer to peer. Youth have to be training youth. They're not going to listen to adults, but they will listen to their peers. That's the magic sauce. And so we're going to be able to train a group of youth throughout the state, and they will make an hourly wage when they're out training other youth. And again, it's focused on opioid epidemic, fentanyl crisis, obviously Narcan, and then teaching our youth some coping skills utilizing CRIM, and we might throw in some other things as well. So we're super excited to roll this out. We will also have training for adults as well, and we're going to have we'll be formulating some advisory councils. So stay tuned on that. And then the other thing I would like to mention, if you know of somebody, CWC will be hiring a youth program director to run this program at a high level. And I'm going to be honest with you, we've got so much going on. I need somebody that's been to the Super Bowl, right? I've got to hire somebody that's got a really strong background in being a director of youth programs. So we're really looking for somebody that we don't have a ramp up time. We've really got to hit the ground running. But if you know of a good candidate, Carter's going to put his email in the chat if he hasn't already, to let us know if you know of somebody that would be interested in this position, because we're not going to go on LinkedIn and get just absolutely slammed with resumes. We want to be very strategic on how we find the right person. And let's see, I think I got just one more slide and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So I am, I never thought in a million years I would be an author, and I just felt this, I can't explain it, this fire inside of me. I just want to educate as many people as I possibly can. And while I share my journey in the book that I had to help with, because I'm not an author, but I am now, I talk about my journey. I talk about Christopher's journey, but when you read it, you really think about your own journey. And I use the analogy of a flight because people leave our flight unexpectedly, and people get on our flight unexpectedly, and we land at different places in our life. We land at happiness and success and illness and sorrow and grief. And how do you keep refueling to keep going? And I'm pretty excited I've been working on the audiobook. Never done that before either. But I do have an audiobook coming out. I'm hoping they're going to get it done by next week on Christopher's Angelversary to release it on that day. I always like to do something special on that day. So stay tuned for that. It is on Amazon. Hopefully the audiobook will be on Spotify and all the things. If you would please, follow CWC. We need to really, social media is something that we can all do together to support each other. So I would love it if you would scan at the QR code and follow us on social media platforms. And is there another slide, or are we good to open up for Q&A? Questions, and you can take that down. Yeah, perfect. And I hope we got time. Yeah, did I talk? Good. Let's open it up for Q&A. Thank you again for the opportunity to share our mission. I really, really appreciate it. And I love the partnership with Resilient Georgia. I'm very thankful.
Yes, thank you so much, Cami, for all of that presentation and sharing your story. Does anybody have any questions about anything that Cami shared about the CWC Alliance or the statewide prevention initiative that we're partnering on?
Mhm. I have a question, and thank you for the information, Cami. This is exciting. The youth program that is coming, when do you have a date in mind of when that will be launched?
Well, we'll be in the planning stages. We haven't received the funding from the state yet. That's coming very soon, but we'll be working with the adults, believe this summer, and we want to launch in the fall when school starts back up with the youth. That's the goal.
Awesome, thank you.
Anybody else? And Emily, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that. I see you're there, or I did see you there.
Hi, I'm Leslie. I just wanted to ask. I'm from Cobb Collaborative, and I was curious what barriers, if any, which I'm sure there are, do you see getting into hospitals, and because obviously there might be some red tape there. So if there are any, you could share.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I could probably go on for 2 hours, but honestly, again, it goes back to partnership. So we partnered with Dean Sumner, thanks to Lynn Patello, who's on this call, made that introduction. But they have the Georgia Rural Innovation Center that's funded by the state. So they know the rural hospitals and the relationships. So they were able to make the introductions for us. But you do have to start, like we require to meet with the C-suite, the CEO, the CNO, the chief administrative of the hospital to have a meeting, because you have to have the support from the top down. We definitely, I would say one of our challenges, and we work through it because every hospital is different. So yesterday I was at Stevens Hospital doing a nursing orientation. We bring food first and foremost. And then we pitch what we're doing so that they don't look at this as just another trial or something. This is a mission, right? And that if nurses run hospitals, I love nurses, and I ask for their help. Like if they're not going to integrate that life care specialist into the workflow team, we're going to have a problem. And so you've got to get everybody on board. And so we do orientations, and that's the way but it is a challenge because you're going into their workflow. So it's really having those champions within. Like at Grady, we had the chief orthopedic surgeon as our champion. You've got to have champions within to be able to expand. And then if you get one good story, it spreads like wildfire. You help the nurse because we're giving respite to nurses, right? There's still a lot of overprescribing going on, and we can't go in and say, hey, why did you do that to a doctor, right? We got to stay in our lane. But we can educate the family and educate the patients, right? But yeah, every hospital is different. So you got to just have a lot of support, and it's about building those relationships internal before you even have the LCS hit the door. That was a great question. Anybody else? We are hiring in Valdosta for a life care specialist. I think we have 2 slots open for that. So if you know of anybody in that region that would be interested or a good candidate, a lot of people ask, who do you hire? It could be an EMT, somebody that's got a healthcare background, a social worker. We have a variety of people, which, we get on a call once a week. Even the life care specialists in Arkansas, all of them get on a team call, and they're learning by sharing collaboration by sharing stories. And that's how they're learning more, is they're able to share. And there's, urban hospitals are different than rural hospitals. And so being able to share the different dynamics together once a week. And then we also have a warm support line. We support the LCSs on the floor. So if they get in a situation, they've got a senior life care specialist that they can call to support them while they're in the hospital.
Lynn has a question in the chat. Does CWC need philanthropic support? If so, post a proposal, and she's happy to share.
Yes, we're always looking for funding. I mean, we definitely received opioid settlement money to sustain our program at Grady. What was wonderful about the Georgia opioid abatement money is we were able to apply to support an existing program. So they took over the LCS team at Grady, which is great. We had a private funder that funded $1 million that got us in the first rural hospitals. So we've got funding for 2 years for that. Now, when that 2 years comes to an end, we're going to have to refund, right? So we're talking to the state as well. And I'm going to be really honest. I don't know. I don't know what everybody's beliefs are, but I'm just telling you, I pray for abundance and it's been coming and it just happens. And the minute I think, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? Then I get a phone call or I get an email or I get connected or somebody writes a check. And to me, it's just about having the faith and I am just walking the path and the abundance will come. I know that we're saving lives. I know that there should be life care specialists in every hospital. And so I don't worry about it. I don't stress about it because he's taking care of me. Got a lot of good agreements on that. Yes. And because Lynn's on this call, I just want to thank you, Lynn. This woman has, introduced us to Dean Sumner. She introduces to everybody. You talk about a champion, it's in Lynn, because Lynn has supported CWC since day one. And she just constantly is sending me emails. Hey, have you seen this grant? Have you seen this? Do you know this person? And that's what it takes. It takes people that are going to believe in you. That's why I call this a crusade. We could never do this on our own without people that believe in your mission and help you. Because that's the thing. So many people work in silos. And, I've heard, well, do you compete with peer specialists? I'm like, okay, there's no such thing as competition as long as people are dying. That doesn't exist. And we do not compete with peer specialists. In fact, we're going to apply for grants where we'll go in with one peer specialist and one life care specialist. Peer specialists are in the emergency department. They're in recovery. We work well with them. There is no competition at all in this space, as far as I'm concerned. So I just look forward to working with all of you on this new program that we just received funding with Resilient Georgia so that we can educate our youth and armor them to be warriors out there against the street drugs and the fentanyl. I mean, that's a huge lane. And I didn't get into it, but I lost my only sibling after losing Christopher because someone gave him a Xanax because he dealt with heavy anxiety and it had fentanyl in it. So I understand my assignment very, very clear. I'm up marching at the White House on fentanyl, because that's just as important as the opioid epidemic. We have kids, young kids dying with fentanyl poisoning. And because you make a bad choice, you don't deserve to die. So we cannot scream loud enough about Narcan and about educating our kids. I cannot wait till we get this youth program out to really empower our youth to train other youth.
Yes, thank you so much. In the chat, Melissa said, "Mom to mom, thank you for advocating for others and making change to prevent others from experiencing unbearable pain of loss of a child. I know so many people who have struggled with drug addiction that started from prescription pain meds." Yes, it is all too common. And let's see what else we got in the chat. Amazing work you're doing. Is there a website or link which lists those employment opportunities, like the ones you mentioned at Valdosta, or would that be through the hospital specifically?
So Carter put his email there. It's carter@cwc.ngo. If you have any resumes, that's where you would send it directly to us. I will say we also did a revamp on our resource library on our website, and we have resources for partners. We have resources for families. I'm super excited about it. And in the book, The Flight, we put QR codes in the back so I can constantly update the library and it links to our website. So, please, use our website, and we're constantly updating our partnerships and our resources in there as well. And that is cwc.ngo.
And Carter put the resources webpage in the chat. Thank you, Carter. Is Emily Ann on the call? Would you, I'm not sure if you're one of the phone numbers, but I wanted to give Emily Ann a chance to talk a little bit more about the partnership with CWC and what we're trying to do, if you wanted to share anything.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I joined, I was on Zoom, and then when I left my office, I could not get reception. So anyway, I'm on the phone. Yes, we're super excited about the partnership with CWC. So once our timeline has gotten bumped down the road a little bit, just because it's taken a little bit longer for DBHDD to get all the contracts in place and to get the funds out. But we hope to be, we're currently reaching out to a few different regional partners that have active youth councils or youth voice projects to pilot the work that we're going to be doing with Cami and the team. And then once we identify them and get started, we'll down the road open it up to, sorry, loud cars. We'll be opening it up to more and more groups as hopefully the opportunity grows, because I feel confident with the opioid settlement that, like Cami said, it's so needed, and I have no doubt it's going to be a successful project, especially with all of you at the table. And so I think there's going to be lots of opportunity for multi-year funding with this project. And so it's the other thing that Cami already mentioned that I'm super excited about is they approved the grant, which, actually pays people. So nobody has to do this work out of the goodness of their heart. I think we know that all of you and all of our peers that work out in the field are obviously passionate, kind individuals, but we also are often gifted a lot of work that is in kind or not paid for. So I'm just super excited that the kids are going to get paid. They're going to have a nice line on their resumes for when they graduate. They're going to have lots of opportunities open through this project, as well as the adults that are going to be working with them.
Thank you, Emily Ann. Does anybody else have any questions?
I do. I am Dr. Cooper. I'm the Director of Social Services, and I do apologize for Grady County Schools, and I do apologize for my lateness. I was tied up with something else. I heard you mention Grady. Are you talking about Cairo, Georgia, or Atlanta, Grady? Ms. Rice?
Grady, I'm sorry, Grady in Atlanta.
Okay, all right. And we're rural Georgia. We're at the bottom, near Thomasville, about 35 miles from Tallahassee, Florida. This is a great initiative that you all have. And I caught the ending part because I had to come on late. Did you do informationals for, just say, Family Connections, just to bring awareness? Because sometimes when you're in certain areas, especially rural, you have to bring that awareness first, and just for people to know that this is a situation and it is serious. It can come here. Even though we're rural Georgia, it can come here. Do you all do that?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. So the life care specialists in the rural communities and in the Atlanta, in the urban too, but in the rural, they absolutely are doing work in the community as well. Speaking at the Rotary, doing any kind of, with the schools. So absolutely in the communities. And, that's the other thing, the challenge is we want hospitals to be aware of our program because they can apply to opioid settlement money. We already have the grant already written up, everything, and then we're the vendor. So we didn't apply for the life care specialists at Grady. Grady did. Grady applied for it. We're the vendor that supplies the program. So any hospital that you know of that you think would need this service, reach out to us and email us, because we can get them the information. We do webinars with hospitals all the time to make them aware of our program. That's been the challenge, is to let them be aware of us, that we exist, so that they can apply for the funding, so that they don't have to, so that we can provide the service. So you're down, are you close to Valdosta?
Well, from Grady County is about an hour. It's about 45 minutes to 50 minutes from Thomasville. So
Okay.
we're about 20 minutes from Thomasville. And we're in a small rural area. We don't have a brick and mortar mental health, but we do have a hospital and we do have doctors. So we do have things here. But however, what at my job here at the school system, being the direct social services, is that I'd like to bring awareness from anything medical or anything mental health. But this is another thing that parents need to be aware of too when it comes to drugs, fentanyl. I mean, because you see a Narcan and they don't know, what is this for? We want to educate the members here in our area. And, we have family connection. Someone can come to our family connection and that'll open the door for the community to bring awareness to the community. And then in turn, they will get in reference to their children.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes we're the lost soldiers because we're so far down from Atlanta, about
Hard to
4
get
hours
to.
north.
Yeah. I'm writing down your name. We'll see what we are doing because when we put our team into Valdosta, it wouldn't be that much farther to scoot down and have a meeting. I hear what you're saying too, and to educate families and parents. It blows me away when so many people don't even, they don't know about Narcan and they need to know, right? Every parent should own it, or even when they send their kid to the dentist to get a wisdom teeth pulled out, they're still over prescribing and a kid's going home with 35 Percocet. Not needed. It's Motrin and ice. So that's what I'm saying when we're trying to change a culture, and it's so important to educate the parents because we don't think to ask those questions. And don't get me wrong, there's great doctors. I'm not trying to, bash doctors, but there's just still an enormous amount of over prescribing, and we don't think to ask, hey, do I really need that? Do I really need a narcotic? No, you don't.
I'll add, Cami, would you mind sharing? I was just reading your email about the screening that you're doing. A lot of our regional coalitions, when they're starting to work on a specific topic, one of the first kind of events they host is a screening of some kind of documentary or informative film. So that might be an option too.
Yes. So CWC is hosting, Warner Brothers did a documentary. It's called Fentanyl Death Incorporated. It's 1 hour. It's an amazing documentary. And it was, they flew all over. They went to the border. They interviewed so many people. It's very, very well done. And they're bringing it to Emory. I only have a small sitting to do there, but I'm looking at trying to get permission to show it at different places and what that cost would be. Warner Brothers is doing a test in 4 cities right now, Atlanta, New York, Nashville, blah, blah, blah. So stay tuned for that. If you are in Atlanta and you're interested, you could send Carter a note. If we can fit you in, we'd love to. It's so good. But the idea is this test market is so that they will get it in theaters, but I think they're going to open it up for schools and institutions as well. And the other thing in September 18th, it's Christopher's heavenly birthday, we're having a conference down at Mercer School of Medicine. And you're going to be able to get continued education credit for coming. More to come on that later. I just am dropping a seed because we're going to get the documentary to show at that conference on September 18th as well, so that everybody can have access to it. But thank you for bringing that up, Emily.
Absolutely. We've done in the past, we've done when different sorry, now I'm next to a dog. That when there's been like a licensing kind of fee, we've shared the cost of that with some of our partner orgs and then shared with all the regional partners. So maybe we can think about that in the future too, once things are a little more fleshed out with the film.
Okay. I will keep everybody up to speed on that. It's really good. It's really worth watching. It's sad. It's scary. It's horrible, but everybody needs to see it. The ultimate goal is to get it on Netflix. I know that's what Warner Brothers, but they're trying to push it out and do this market study first. Anybody else?
I saw Guyla posted, it looks like a 2025 Carroll County Fentanyl Awareness Summit coming up Thursday, March 6th. Do you want to speak to that at all, Guyla, Ms. Gonzalez?
Hi, I'm so sorry. Yes, this is our third annual Fentanyl Summit, Awareness Summit. And the police department, different agencies, we have created the Carroll County Fentanyl Coalition. So it brings awareness. And every year we are seeing the numbers and collaborating with Department of Public Health and different things. So if you want to be a vendor or to have a booth over there, please let us know. I will put my information and all the information on the chat, because we need to be bringing this awareness into our communities. And I would love to hear more about the Fentanyl Death Incorporation. I am so sorry that I got in late, but I just came out of court, so sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank
No
you.
worries. Thank you so much for sharing that, and we're glad you're here. We still have 4 minutes. Any other final thoughts or questions?
I have a question. I keep on thinking, Cami, about what you shared about how hospitals have the opportunity to apply for funding to then partner with you and bring it to their hospitals. Is there a one page or a place on your website that we could share with folks so it could be easy for them to then share with hospitals who might be interested? I mean, I know our partners here, some are from Albany and they're, they have relationships with CV Putney, and I'm sure other folks have relationships with different hospitals too. So I think it would be a great opportunity to be able to share that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I will have Carter send you the slide deck and also send you a page for the hospital specifically.
Perfect.
That would
Thank
be
you.
so helpful, because that's the challenge, is getting the word out to hospitals that the program is available. So that would be great.
Thank you.
Valentine's Day is tomorrow.
Any other final questions?
I
Hello.
really appreciate it. Oh, we have another
Jade.
question.
Go ahead, Jade.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jade Reagan. I'm the Special Projects Coordinator for United Way of Southwest Georgia. I just wanted to throw out there that we are excited about hearing updates about this. We actually have a mental health team, a mental health coalition here called Youth United. And so they kind of go off of one of the same kind of styles that you want to program with. They do peer teaching, and we're trying to get them training so that they can teach their teams, because we do emphasize with the amount of impact that they would have with one-on-one with each other. So we are extremely excited to hear about this program. It sounds so fun and so interesting and so new. So we just are excited, and we want to offer you our support as we hear some more updates about it. So good job, and we're excited to see more about it.
Jade, and thank you for your enthusiasm. And yes, you will be hearing from us. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cami and Carter, for being here. This was such an impactful lunch and learn, and it's just such an important topic, and we're so excited to partner with you on this initiative to prevent opioid use in teens. We will gather all the resources that were shared today, compile them, as well as the recording from today's session, and we'll make sure we share all of that out in a memo and a follow-up email. And then the recording, as always, will be posted to our Lunch and Learn webpage. But thank you all so much for being here, and we hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate all of you and the amazing positive feedback. That really makes me keep going. So I appreciate it very much. And thank you, Carter. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.